The alarm exploded into the dark room at 5 in the morning, that harsh digital buzz cutting straight through the silence. Liam's eyes shot open, heart pounding. For a second, he was caught between worlds, the warmth of his bed and the cold truth of the day waiting outside. His arm swung lazily across the nightstand, searching for the snooze button like it always did. That same toxic ritual he'd repeated for months. 5 more minutes, just 5. But deep down, he knew what those 5 minutes really meant: another lost chance, another quiet surrender. He sat up instead, bleary-eyed, hair a mess, but awake. Really awake. The room was freezing, the kind of cold that makes you want to dive back under the covers and forget ambition exists. But something in him stirred, a whisper that wasn't there before. Wake up and get it done. He couldn't explain why it hit him differently this time, but it did. Maybe it was the regret that had been piling up. Maybe it was the feeling that he was watching life pass him by. Or maybe he was just sick of his own excuses. He rubbed his face, dragged himself to the bathroom, and flicked on the light. The mirror didn't lie. The guy staring back looked tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from years of saying, tomorrow. There were dark circles under his eyes, a little extra weight on his frame, and something heavier behind his expression: disappointment. He turned on the tap, splashed freezing water over his face, and stared again. "You've wasted enough time," he muttered under his breath, voice low but firm. "It's time to move." He pulled on his trainers, grabbed his hoodie, and stepped out into the dawn. The world outside was silent. No cars, no people, just the dim orange glow of streetlights flickering against wet pavement. He could have taken the car, but he didn't. He walked instead, 15 minutes of cold air biting at his cheeks, each step echoing in the empty streets. It felt strange, like he was walking into a new version of himself, one that didn't make excuses or chase comfort. The chill in the air made his body shiver, but his mind was burning. As he walked, he thought about all the mornings he'd wasted scrolling through his phone, watching other people live the life he wanted. The influencers with perfect routines, the entrepreneurs talking about discipline, the athletes grinding before sunrise. He used to think they were lucky. Now he realized luck had nothing to do with it. They just showed up, every day, whether they felt like it or not. When he reached the gym, it was dead silent, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the faint smell of iron and rubber. The door creaked as he pushed it open. The air inside was thick and cold, like the building itself was still asleep. But Liam wasn't, not anymore. He threw his bag down, put his phone on the bench, and started warming up. The first few reps felt heavy. Too heavy. His arms trembled. His body wanted to quit before it had even begun. But that whisper came back again, stronger this time: "You said you'd get it done. So do it." He pushed harder. 10 reps turned into 20. The weights clanged against the rack, the sound echoing around the empty gym. Sweat dripped down his forehead, his heart hammered in his chest, and his lungs burned. Every part of him screamed to stop. But he didn't. He'd spent years quitting halfway. Not today. Today he was the kind of man who finished what he started. At one point, he dropped the dumbbell and leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. His reflection in the mirror looked wrecked, red-faced, drenched in sweat, shaking. But behind that exhaustion was something new. Determination. A spark that hadn't been there before. He smiled, even as pain pulsed through his muscles. "This is it," he whispered. "This is what change feels like." He moved from weights to cardio, running on the treadmill until his shirt clung to his body. The rhythm of his footsteps matched the beat of his heart, fast, relentless, alive. Outside, the darkness began to fade, and the first hints of sunrise painted the sky in streaks of gold and pink. He slowed down, chest rising and falling, drenched but proud. For the first time in a long time, he felt control, real control. As he walked home, the city began to wake. People rushed to buses, lights flickered on in houses, dogs barked in the distance. But Liam had already been awake for hours. He'd done more before sunrise than he used to do all day. His body ached, but his mind was calm. The voice that once whispered, "Sleep," was gone, replaced by a new one that said, "Keep going." When he reached his flat, he sat on the edge of his bed again, the same place he'd almost given up that morning. He looked at the clock, 7:02 a.m. 2 hours of work, 2 hours of sweat, 2 hours that might not mean much today, but would change everything in time. He reached for his phone, the same device that had stolen so many mornings, and opened the front camera. He looked into it, breathing hard, eyes still burning from effort. "This is day one," he said quietly. "No more waiting. No more excuses. From now on, I wake up and get it done." He hit record and saved the clip, not for social media, not for anyone else, but as proof. Proof that he'd finally started. The start of something bigger than motivation. Bigger than comfort. The start of discipline. He stood up, stretched, and opened the window. The morning breeze filled the room. It smelled like change, like possibility. The city outside buzzed with energy, and for once, Liam felt part of it. Not a spectator. A player. Someone who'd stopped dreaming about success and started earning it. He closed his eyes for a moment, smiled, and whispered to himself one last time before heading to the shower. "You did it. You woke up. You got it done." And in that quiet, ordinary moment, something extraordinary began. 2 weeks later, the alarm went off just like it always did, loud, sharp, unforgiving. But this time, Liam didn't jump out of bed straight away. He lay there, eyes half open, staring at the ceiling. The room was still dark, the air cold enough to make him pull the blanket up to his chest. His body ached from yesterday's workout, his shoulders felt tight, his legs heavy. The excitement that used to jolt him awake was gone. What had once felt like a challenge now felt like a chore. He sat up slowly, rubbed his eyes, and sighed. "What's the point?" he muttered under his breath. For 2 solid weeks he'd been waking up early, pushing through the pain, lifting heavier, eating cleaner. But when he looked in the mirror, he barely saw any change. No six-pack, no sharp jawline, no glory. Just the same bloke staring back, tired, sweaty, ordinary. His business idea hadn't taken off either. He'd been working on designs, making plans, trying to promote himself online, but nothing was moving. No orders, no recognition. Just silence. He picked up his phone, scrolling through social media out of habit. And there it was, a flood of success stories. People posting gym progress pictures, motivational quotes, videos with hundreds of likes. A lad he'd gone to school with had just bought a new car. Another one launched a brand that was already going viral. Liam's thumb stopped on a post that read, "Discipline separates winners from wishers." It should have fired him up. Instead, it made him feel worse. He dropped the phone on the bed, slumped forward, and buried his face in his hands. "I'm trying," he whispered, voice cracking slightly. "I'm bloody trying." But no one saw it. No one clapped for early mornings. No one cared about quiet effort. It felt like he was running in circles, shouting into a void. A soft knock came at the door. "Liam." It was Mia, his younger sister. Her voice was gentle, still sleepy. "You up?" "Yeah," he said flatly. "Kind of." The door creaked open. She peeked in, wearing her school hoodie, hair tied up messily. "You going to the gym?" He hesitated. "Dunno. Might skip today." She frowned. "You haven't skipped once in 2 weeks." He shrugged. "Doesn't seem to be doing much good, does it?" She walked in, holding her cereal bowl, and perched on the edge of his bed. "You're joking, right? You've been smashing it. Mum keeps saying how focused you are lately. You've even stopped staying up half the night." Liam blinked. "Mum said that, yeah, and honestly," Mia said between spoonfuls, "it's kind of inspiring. You make me feel lazy." Those last few words hit him harder than any motivational quote ever could. He looked at her, really looked, and realized she meant it. He'd been so trapped inside his own head, obsessed with results, that he hadn't noticed the quiet impact he was having on people around him. Mia finished her cereal and stood. "Anyway, don't quit. You're making progress even if you can't see it yet." Then she smiled, half teasing, half encouraging. "Go get it done, bro." She left the room, and silence filled the space again. But it wasn't the heavy, hopeless kind anymore. It was lighter, like her words had cracked open a window in his mind. He sat there for another minute, staring at the clock. 5:07 a.m. He could still make it if he moved now. He threw off the blanket, grabbed his hoodie, and slipped on his trainers. The air outside hit him like a wake-up call. Cold, sharp, alive. His breath formed small clouds as he walked down the familiar road to the gym. Inside, everything was the same, the hum of lights, the smell of metal, the faint echo of clanging weights. But something felt different. He wasn't there to prove anything anymore. Not to the mirror, not to social media, not even to himself. He was there because this was who he was becoming. Someone who shows up, no matter what. He started with bench presses, pushing through the stiffness in his arms. His muscles trembled, his chest burned, and that voice in his head whispered, "Quit now, no one's watching." But then another voice, Mia's, cut through the noise, "You're making progress even if you can't see it." He pushed harder. 10 reps, 12, 15. He let out a grunt that echoed across the gym. Sweat dripped down his temples, stinging his eyes, but he didn't stop. Each representative felt like defiance. Defiance against the old version of him who gave up when things got tough. Defiance against doubt. After an hour, he collapsed onto the bench, chest heaving, arms dead. He stared at his reflection again. Still the same bloke, but this time, there was something new in his eyes. A steadiness, a kind of quiet fire. He realized something important in that moment: motivation fades. It always does, but discipline doesn't need to feel good to work. It just needs to be done. He gathered his stuff, stepped outside, and looked up at the sky. The first streaks of sunlight were cutting through the clouds. It wasn't a dramatic sunrise, just a soft, golden glow that painted the rooftops. But it was enough to remind him that progress doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it just whispers. As he walked home, he passed a man unlocking his shop, yawning into the morning air. Liam gave him a nod. The man nodded back. For some reason, that small moment felt powerful, like a quiet exchange between two people who understood what it meant to keep showing up when no one's watching. By the time Liam got back, Mia was sitting at the table doing her homework. She looked up and smiled when she saw him, sweat still shining on his forehead. "Told you you'd go," she said. He laughed softly, pouring himself a glass of water. "Yeah," he said, "guess I did." And for the first time in days, he felt at peace, not because everything was fixed, but because he'd kept his promise. To himself, to the process, to the person he was still becoming. The alarm went off right on time, 5 o'clock sharp, but now it wasn't a battle. Liam didn't curse it, didn't fight it, he welcomed it. That sharp buzz had become a symbol of something greater, a reminder of who he'd decided to become. He swung his legs off the bed, planted his feet on the cold floor, and smiled. The world outside was still sleeping, but he was already moving. The mornings no longer felt like punishment. They felt like freedom. Months had passed since that first brutal day when getting up early felt impossible. Now, it was routine, automatic, effortless. The same streets that once felt empty and cold were now familiar territory, his personal battlefield of growth. As he jogged down the pavement, the air crisp against his face, he noticed the little things he used to miss: the way the sunrise split the sky into gold and purple, the birds stirring before the city woke. He felt grounded, alive, in control. His body had changed too. Leaner, stronger, more defined. But the real transformation wasn't visible in the mirror, it was in his mind. The lazy, excuse-filled version of himself had been replaced by someone who no longer waited for motivation. He'd built discipline, the kind that kept you going when no one's cheering, when no one's watching, when it's just you and your own voice saying, "Keep moving." That morning, after finishing his workout, Liam sat on the gym floor, drenched in sweat but calm, breathing deeply. Around him, people were slowly trickling in, some half asleep, some scrolling their phones between sets. He smiled, remembering when he used to be one of them, always waiting for a sign to start. Now he knew better. The sign was the work itself. You didn't need lightning bolts or fancy quotes, just the decision to show up. When he left the gym, the sun had fully risen, casting a golden glow across the streets. It was the same city, but it looked different through his eyes, sharper, brighter, full of possibility. He walked past a cafe where he used to waste mornings sipping coffee and scrolling through his phone, dreaming of success. Today, he didn't stop. He didn't need the fantasy anymore. He was living the process, step by step, day by day. Back home, he showered, made breakfast, and sat down at his desk. The business he'd once struggled to start was finally taking shape. Orders were coming in, slowly but steadily. He wasn't rich yet, but he was proud, not of what he had, but of what he'd become. The man who used to doubt himself had turned into someone who did what needed to be done, even when it wasn't easy. Especially when it wasn't easy. Later that afternoon, he opened his phone to record a short video. The idea had been in his head for weeks, not to brag, not to flex, but to share what he'd learned. He hit record, looked straight into the camera, and spoke from the gut. "Listen," he began, voice steady, eyes sharp. "No one's coming to push you. No one's going to wake you up, drag you out of bed, or hand you the life you want. You have to do it yourself. You want something, then wake up and get it done. Don't wait for motivation, it's a liar. Don't wait for perfect timing, it doesn't exist. You just show up, over and over again, until showing up becomes who you are. He paused for a second, wiped the sweat from his brow, then continued. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be the best. You just need to be consistent. That's it, because consistency wins where talent quits. You've got to stop wishing and start working. He ended the video with one simple line, wake up and get it done. Then he uploaded it and went on with his day. A few hours later, the video started spreading. Comments poured in, people saying they felt inspired, others saying they finally got up and did something. Liam didn't care about the numbers, though. He cared about the message. He cared about the fact that somewhere out there, someone else was hearing that same call that once pulled him out of bed, wake up and get it done. That night, as he stood by the window looking out over the quiet city, he realized he'd become the kind of person he used to look up to, not because of success or fame, but because he kept his promise to himself. The promise to show up, to try, to rise. He smiled faintly, turned off the light, and set his alarm for 5. Tomorrow wasn't guaranteed, but discipline was. And when that alarm screamed again, he knew exactly what he'd do, wake up, and get it done.